Every night. I pretend to take the vitamin he gave me. I am waiting for him to think I am asleep and sneak into my room. His fingers are cold. Gently. He strokes my face, kisses my neck, and unbuttons my clothes. Suddenly, he leans close to my ear and whispers, "Sister, don't pretend anymore. I know you have already found out. 7 years ago, my father remarried. I saw Ryan for the first time at a family banquet. He is studying art. So he was invited by my father to perform a piano piece for everyone. The handsome young man was wearing a seemingly cheap black tailcoat. He sat upright. His slender fingers were flying rapidly over the piano keys. He has fair skin. His facial features are so exquisitely handsome that he doesn't seem human. It even reminds me of the vampire movies I watched when I was a child. The piano piece performed is Robert Schumann's Fantasy Pieces. After the piece ended, everyone was applauding and playing, but I seemed to be struck to the core by his piano piece. At that moment, the world seemed so quiet that only the two of us were left. I could only hear my own heartbeat. Everyone dispersed. My father led a middle-aged woman who was still beautiful and elegant to me, and told me that she was my new mother. And the young man was standing shyly aside. His eyes are so pure that they seem untouched by dust. His skin is fair. His facial features are delicate and three-dimensional. His lips are light pink. His figure is extremely slender. He is Ryan. He is the son born to her and her ex-husband. My father has had 5 wives. And this woman is his 6th. Because of this handsome young man, I privately hope that their marriage can last a little longer this time. I look into the young man's eyes. They are clear and bright like a deer's. That bewildered look makes a budding desire stir in my heart. His gaze also turns to me. When our eyes meet, he blushes shyly and says, "Hello. I am Ryan." I gently approach him. There is a faint minty fragrance on him. I deliberately and ambiguously lean close to his ear. "Summer. You have to call me sister." His body stiffens. His ears are already red as if bleeding. But he looks at me timidly with his clear eyes. "Sister." I nod with a smile. That night, I dreamed of Ryan. I am slowly unbuttoning his clothes. He bites his light pink lips. His face is as red as if bleeding. He calls me sister over and over again. I really like seeing Ryan's flustered expression when I tease him. He always stares at me with his pure and bright eyes, looking at me innocently. His ears are red. And he says softly, "Sister, don't tease me." At this time, I can barely restrain the urge to pounce on him. My father asks me to tutor him. This gives me more private time to be with the young man. "You got this question wrong again." I draw a big cross on his notebook. I gently lift his lowered head. "Summer, if you don't accept a little punishment, you won't remember your mistake, right?" He looks at me carefully. "What punishment will sister give me?" I slowly approach him. I lean close to his burning red ear with my mouth. "Sister hasn't thought of it yet. You owe it first." Ryan nods obediently. He is as docile as an obedient puppy. I can't help but pinch his verlobe. He makes a soft sound. That sound makes me have some wild thoughts. I get up and open the window. If this continues, I will also have difficulty breathing. "Sister, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well?" Suddenly, he leans close to me with his body and supports me with his arms. I smell the faint minty smell on the young man again. That night, I dreamed of Ryan again. But this time he took the initiative to pounce on me. He gently strokes my face, traces my facial features with his fingertips, takes the initiative to lean his forehead against mine. "Sister, are you sick? Let me check your temperature for you." Ryan's mother is very much loved by my father, so my father starts to force me to take him with me everywhere. Ryan inexplicably becomes my little follower. He follows me like a shadow to all my wine parties, and private dinners. My girlfriends are all envious. After all, who doesn't like a cute and beautiful obedient puppy? "Sister, you can't drink anymore. If you drink more, you will get drunk. He takes the wine glass from my hand. I hold his hand down. Summer, you can't control me. I can drink 1,000 cups without getting drunk. He looks at me pitifully. No. Sister always gets drunk. Every time it's me who carries you home. When the mischievous friends nearby hear this, they all start to make fun and laugh. There are also sisters who deliberately tease him. Then is sister soft? Big? Is it comfortable to carry on your back? His face turns completely red in an instant. He just looks at me shyly. I see his pure and clear eyes. Looking down shyly, I can't help but speak up for him. He is still a minor. You all be careful. At the end of the wine party, he supports me who can barely even stand. Sister, you are wrong. I am somewhat delirious and fall into his arms. What's wrong? He leans close to my ear and says in a deep and somewhat hoarse voice. Sister, I am already an adult. I don't remember how I got home that night. But I dreamed of Ryan again. This time he took the initiative to kiss me for the first time. I seem to hear his hoarse muffled groans and gasps full of desire. When I wake up, I am already wearing a clean nightgown. But my whole body aches. Just moving a little makes me feel uncomfortable. Ryan obediently holds a cup of milk and comes to my bed. Sister is awake? I prepared hot milk for sister to warm your stomach. I look at Ryan in front of me, who is also wearing pajamas. His buttons are only fastened to the third one. His collar reveals a beautiful and sexy white collarbone. There are clear and obvious red scratch marks on the collarbone. I am not an inexperienced girl. I know very well what this is. I take the milk and ask casually as if I don't care. Summer, did sister do anything absurd to you when she was drunk yesterday? When Ryan hears my words, he is slightly stunned. He lowers his head and says softly, No. Because of the hangover. My hand is still shaking slightly. I almost spill the milk in my hand. Seeing this, Ryan immediately holds my hand. His slender and flexible fingers completely wrap around mine, gently reminding me, Sister, be careful. Being so close. The fresh smell of the young man lingering at the tip of my nose is like the mint hard candy I ate when I was a child. Did sister drink so much last night? Are you uncomfortable today? The young man sits next to me and asks me with concern. I take a deep breath. Tell sister. Who changed my pajamas yesterday? His eyelashes tremble slightly. He purses his lips slightly, looking a bit hard to say. I immediately understand. Yesterday sister kept saying that she was uncomfortable and wanted to change clothes. It was too late, and I didn't want to disturb Auntie. Does sister mind? I ask Ryan carefully. Then the scratch marks on your body. Did I make them? He lowers his head shyly and gently hums. Like a docile little sheep. Sister, rest well. I'll go wash the cup. He takes the empty cup after I finish drinking the milk from my hand, and carefully takes out a tissue to wipe my hands. He walks out of my room calmly, leaving me somewhat at a loss. So, is this how the red marks on his collarbone came about? I bury my head in the soft velvet pillow. I actually took advantage of being drunk to take liberties with the innocent young man. That person is still my stepbrother. Although I have secretly desired him for a long time, the finger that he touched still has a residual temperature. A slight smile curves my lips. Ryan feels very disgusted. He is disgusted that his mother has taken him and married a rich man again. He is even more disgusted that she always hypocritically says in front of him, Summer, Mom does everything for you. To deal with his new stepfather, he has to perform in front of everyone. He feels that that group of riffraff doesn't deserve to enjoy his music. Until he catches a glimpse of the girl in the crowd. She is wearing a white high-end small formal dress. The fitted dress clings to her alluring bodyline. Her neck is as long and beautiful as a swan. The only drawback is that she is wearing some exaggerated heavy makeup. But Ryan can still see her pure and sweet face behind the heavy makeup. The whole person is like a doll. Her eyes are shining with dazzling light, staring at Ryan in a daze. This makes him feel a little annoyed. He can't help but speed up the rhythm. His fingers are flying rapidly over the keyboard. The little beast in his heart is roaring. Summer. You have to call me sister. She whispers softly in Ryan's ear. Ryan blushes. Deliberately pinches his voice and pretends to be clever and shy as he calls sister. He turns his head and sees her delicate and charming red lips and crystal clear skin. His unseemly thoughts surge up again. She takes out a cigarette and smokes rings in front of him skillfully and lazily. He really wants to put it out. She shouldn't touch these filthy things. He has found out. She is always luring him. He really wants to tell her that he has coveted her for a long time. In fact, she just needs to stand there. He can't help but sink. The tip of his nose is filled with the fragrance of the girl after taking a bath. After helping her clean up. Wiping off those makeup that doesn't suit her. And changing into a clean nightgown. She sleeps sweetly and peacefully. Only at this time will she not wear makeup and show her original appearance. She turns over. The shoulder strap of her nightgown has already slipped down to her chest. The exposed part is round and full. But there is still a sweet smile on her face. Sister. Ryan calls her softly. She is sleeping deeply because of being drunk. He changes into pajamas for himself. And pulls up her shoulder strap. Gently hugs her. The girl from a good family pays attention to skincare. The close-fitting skin is delicate and smooth. Ryan's breathing becomes heavier. He tries hard to suppress himself and composes music in his heart. In his heart. She is a holy and noble angel. She is his Clara. And at this moment, he feels that he has become the pathetic Brahms. He is infatuated with her. But he doesn't want to easily desecrate her. Ryan gently holds her finger. Interlocks fingers with her. Pretending that she is responding to him. But in his heart. He is afraid. Afraid of being discovered by her. The seemingly obedient and docile younger brother has all dirty and despicable thoughts about her. Sister. Good night. Ryan gives a pious and gentle kiss on her forehead. Leaving his good night gift. Ryan has a performance at the school theater on the weekend. A piano solo. Robert Schumann's Are You Mere I. Sister. Can you come and watch? He hands me an invitation. Somewhat rough printing. Black and white cover. Extremely simple. Ryan looks nervous. His expression is a bit cramped and a bit expectant. I want to tease him. Summer. Sister has a project assignment on the weekend. Maybe. He lowers his eyelashes. Looking a bit frustrated. If sister is not free. It's okay. I couldn't help but chuckle. I was just teasing you. For Summer's first performance at university. I will definitely be there. After hearing this. Ryan's eyes shone with clear and dazzling light. The corners of his mouth lifted. Sister. Then I'll wait for you. The handsome young man's smile was bright and brilliant in the sunlight. I couldn't help but be a bit dazed. The school's small theater was a bit run down. The walls were grayish-white. There were only less than 100 seats. The environment seemed very poor. When I arrived backstage, a group of little girls were surrounding Ryan and giving him small gifts. His seat was filled with flowers, cakes, dolls, and cards. He always maintained a polite smile, but his expression was somewhat distant and cold. Summer. I gently called out to him and greeted him. When he saw me, he quickly stood up. There was a glimmer of joy in his eyes. Sister. You are here. Well. I wish you a successful performance. I handed him the small cake and flowers I had just bought on the side of the road. He happily took them. Pressed his lips together. Then suddenly leaned close to my ear and softly whispered. Sister. This piece is played for you. I looked at Ryan in surprise. His earlobes were flushed. He quickly turned around. In the simple and cramped theater. The stage lights suddenly dimmed. A rustling blue light fell on the young man. Everything around became quiet. Everyone held their breath and stared at the beautiful young man on the stage, who was so beautiful that it made people dazed. Until the young man pressed the first white key with his finger. The musical melody slowly flowed. The gentle and romantic piano, Sound filled the entire theater. I closed my eyes and felt the emotions conveyed by each note. It was like lovers whispering to each other, expressing intense love. Slowly, one could also vaguely feel the suppressed and sad emotions, until the performance ended and Ryan bowed to the audience to express his thanks. His eyes were fixed on me, pious and firm, as if expressing some kind of loyalty. I sat in my seat in a daze for a long time until all the performances ended and everyone left. The theater was drafty. I was a bit cold, and couldn't help but shrink. The person next to me wrapped my cold hand in his. I turned sideways. Ryan had quietly sat down next to me at some point. His palm was broad and warm, completely wrapping my fingers, gently rubbing my fingers. Because of years of practicing the piano, the young man's fingertips had a slight callus. The slight tingling sensation made me feel as if there was an electric current flowing in my blood. My whole body was numb. He blew a breath of warm air into my palm and gently asked me, "Sister, are you still cold? Summer, can you hug me?" I asked him. He was slightly stunned, but soon pulled me into his arms. I pressed my head close to his heart, felt his somewhat frantic heartbeat, held his palm back. Our breaths intertwined. Our bodies instantly became warm. I stood up, pulled my hand out of his, hooked my hands around his neck. I stared at him, felt the intense emotional fluctuations in his clear eyes, approached the corner of his lips. But he turned his head aside. His voice was hoarse. "Sister, have you thought it through?" "Thought through what?" I smiled and drew circles on his chest with my fingertip. But he grabbed my hand. "Tru Mirai is Schumann's musical love letter, written to his beloved Clara. Does sister understand my feelings?" His gaze was burning and expectant. But my eyes dimmed. I stood up, pulled my hand out of his. "Summer, you shouldn't have unreasonable expectations of your sister." His voice trembled a little. "So sister has always been towards me. Only desire. I don't love you." Looking at his sad eyes, I told him the truth bluntly and cruelly. His face instantly turned pale. While forcing a bitter smile, he said, "Is it because I'm not good enough yet? So sister couldn't love me? I will change everything you don't like." If I half knelt in front of him, stared into his eyes. "Summer, you are very good. But I will not fall in love with anyone. My mother abandoned me since I was a child. And your mother is already my father's sixth wife. I no longer believe that there is any eternal love in this world. I'm sorry to have made you have expectations." After saying these words, I turned and left the theater. I was so cold-hearted. Even though I had countless heartbeats for this handsome and obedient young man, I also had an almost pathological desire for him. But I still cruelly rejected him, and secretly rejoiced that I didn't let this silly child fall too deep in love, stopping it in time. I always knew that my father's marriage wouldn't last long, but this time it was less than a year, shorter than I had imagined. "Summer, go and say goodbye to Summer." My father patted my shoulder and pointed to Ryan, who was gazing up from downstairs. I quickly ran downstairs, repeating the farewell words I had rehearsed countless times in my heart. But when I really saw Ryan, I couldn't say a word. "Sister." His face still wore a warm smile. I felt a bit guilty, especially when looking at the young man's clear and bright eyes in the night. "Summer." Suddenly, he stepped forward, hugged me tightly in his arms, pressed his chin against my neck. "Is this sister's punishment for me?" I smelled the refreshing mint fragrance on him. My eyes felt a bit swollen. Suddenly, he leaned close to my ear in an ambiguous way. His voice was deep and sexy. "I regret that day. In fact, not only does sister have desire for me, I am always fantasizing about sister." After saying that, he gently kissed my forehead. His eyes suddenly became cold. There was a faint sadness in his smile. "Sister, remember to miss me." My eyelashes trembled. I stood there stunned, not having reacted to this sudden kiss yet. He had already turned and left. In the middle of the night. I was thirsty and got up to pour water. But I heard someone playing the piano in the living room. It was Ryan. Summer. Why are you here? The piece he was playing was Tear You Mere I, that he performed in the theater that day. He didn't look up. Nor did he answer me. He just played on the piano keys rapidly with his fingers. When I approached him, the piano sound suddenly stopped. He turned and looked at me, smiled with a gloomy look in his eyes. Sister, you are here. Suddenly, his arm wrapped around my waist, pressed me against the top of the grand piano. I stammered. Summer. What are you doing? The clear and obedient puppy suddenly turned into a little beast full of desire in his eyes. Blew a breath of hot air into my ear. Said in an ambiguous voice, Sister, tell me, how should I punish you? He smiled gently at me, gently stroked my face, then leaned down. I suddenly woke up. It turned out to be just a dream. I hugged my arms and curled up on the bed. Over the years, he would still often enter my dreams. We hugged, kissed, whispered in each other's ears. When our emotions were deep, he would whisper sweet words in my ear. I could almost be sure that this young man was fatally attractive to me. But I think it's not love. It's my hormones at work. I often think of the look in his eyes when he looked at me last. This bad boy. His words, miss me, really bewitched me. But except in my dreams, I think I will never see him again in this life. I didn't expect me trying again. And it was when I was about to get engaged. I stared at the man in front of me wearing a high-end custom-made suit and a luxurious watch. His face was still extremely handsome. But his eyes were no longer clear and pure. Instead, they were cold and unruly. He slightly curved his lips. His temperament was even more charming. After 7 years of not seeing each other, I stood there motionless. But there was a storm in my heart. Twilight held my hand and introduced him to me. This is Ryan, a newly emerging artist I specially invited from abroad. He just won the gold medal in the Chopin International Piano competition. Ryan's gaze fell on Twilight's hand holding mine. His expression was cold and somewhat distant. His voice floated over lightly. It's only been 7 years. Have you already forgotten me? Twilight. He is my younger brother. I stuttered as I introduced him to my fiancé. Ryan curved his lips. So sister still remembers me. Later on, I didn't know what happened. When he said that he still didn't have a place to live after returning to the country, I somehow foolishly agreed to let him live in my newly bought apartment. When he was shirtless, revealing his fair chest and sexy mermaid line in front of me, his short hair was still dripping with water. Following his forehead, high nose bridge, light pink lips, slender neck, all the way down to his collarbone. The originally thin young man was now so muscular. What a beautiful picture of a handsome man emerging from the bath. I couldn't help but swallow. Sister, what are you looking at? While wiping his hair, he sat down next to me. I quickly lowered my head and touched my face that was now red and hot. He chuckled beside my ear. I didn't expect sister to get married either. Didn't you say you wouldn't fall in love with anyone? It's a family alliance. Twilight is the only son of my father's business partner. I replied softly. So it's like this. I thought sister had found true love. Turns out it's just a transaction. He hooked his lips. His tone was a bit sarcastic. I stood up. But suddenly he tightly grabbed my arm. He said casually, since you don't love him, then sister, be with me secretly. I turned and looked at him in surprise. He stood up, looked at me with burning eyes. At such a close distance, I could feel his scorching breath. I could even hear his heartbeat. After a while, he suddenly chuckled. It's just a joke. Sister doesn't think that after all these years I still can't forget you, right? I suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. But there was some shame in my heart. I had actually been seriously considering his proposal just now. During this period of living with Ryan, I was surprised to find that he was completely a perfect man who was good at everything. For example, every morning when I wake up, there is already fragrant coffee brewed. On the dining table, there are all kinds of carefully arranged dishes. The room is cleaned spotlessly. Fresh flower bouquets that are different every day. While eating a sandwich, I watched Ryan, who was seriously trimming flower branches. With a mouthful of food, I said, "Summer, you will make me unable to leave you like this." His hand paused slightly. Then he looked at me gently and smiled. "So sister is so easily satisfied?" And then he continued to bury himself in arranging the flowers. Looking at his smile, my heart skipped a beat for some reason. Recently, I have been sleeping very well. But when I wake up, my head always has a slight pain. I frowned and rubbed my temples. "Sister, do you need me to massage you?" Before I could answer, Ryan's hand had already touched my neck. His fingers gently kneaded the acupuncture on my neck and head. My headache was immediately relieved a lot. Could it be that an artist's hands have magic? The massage techniques seemed to be different. I let out a pleasant sigh. His slender fingers were a bit cool, slowly reaching from my neck to my back. "Sister's shoulders are so stiff." Ryan gathered his fingertips, massaged me attentively. The numbness flowed in my blood. The friction between fingertips and skin made my breathing heavy. I tried hard to suppress the sound in my throat. My whole body was stiff. But it was not good to stop him. I tried to calm my breathing and remind myself that he was just giving me a massage. But his thoughtfulness couldn't help but make me a little suspicious. Does he really see me as his sister or something else? Ryan's voice came from behind me leisurely. "Massaging these acupunctures can also improve sister's posture. Mr. Su can also try to learn." He suddenly mentioned Twilight. Recalling that during this period of time, the way he looked at me was no longer passionate and attached. I realized that he really didn't love me anymore. A vague soreness swelled up in my heart. But clearly it was I who cowardly rejected him first. When he heard the news that she was about to get engaged abroad, Ryan returned to China immediately. In these 7 years, he numbed himself with an unusually long playing time, learned many skills to divert his attention and disperse his longing. He regretted his confession in the theater countless times. Clearly he could have made her rely on him more, be more inseparable from him. Or he could have seduced her with his body. But he ruined everything so eagerly. He understood her concerns better than anyone. She said that his mother was her father's 6th wife. In fact, her father was also his mother's 4th husband. For them, short term is easier to hold on to than eternity. He always thought that love for him was like the thorns on a rose. Picking it would pierce his most cherished finger. But it wasn't until he met her that he understood that some people are roses that he wants to pick even if it scratches his finger. But she didn't seem to understand yet. He burned himself with a cigarette, but in the darkness. How can sister belong to someone else? At first glance, he was sure that she was his. He tried to look at her calmly. But her hand tightly connected with her fiancé still hurt him. He calmed his anger and asked if she still remembered him. Just one word of remembering completely dissolved his grievance and resentment. He looked at her, who was a bit at a loss. Induced her to invite him to live in her small house. Ryan curved his lips. She was really as naive and easy to deceive as 7 years ago. He admitted that he was deliberately tempting her. Looking at her shy eyes, he knew that she still had desire for him. This was a good start. Ryan tried to remind himself that this time he was staying by her side as a younger brother. But when he heard that they were only in a business alliance, he still couldn't help but issue an invitation to her. But soon he became sober. For her, one must never be too hasty. His fingers gently kneaded on her smooth skin. His gaze accidentally fell on her chest. He heard the sound she made. His throat tightened a little. How could she seduce him like this? His eyes were a bit red. He deliberately mentioned Twilight to test her. As expected, she didn't make a sound. A trace of gloom appeared in Ryan's eyes. He couldn't control his jealousy of that man's identity. Deliberately increased the strength in his hand. It seemed that he had to speed up a bit. "My body has been very strange recently. Every night I sleep extremely deeply. What's even stranger is that I haven't had any dreams for a long time. It's embarrassing to mention that every morning when I wake up and see Ryan at first glance, I can't help but stare at him tightly. I miss the feeling of being held in his arms. This feeling is even stronger than 7 years ago. An inadvertent movement of his, some accidental touch, or even a casual "sister" by my ear makes my face blush and feel hot. He's like a goblin. How can he be so alluring? He was fiddling with his tie in front of the mirror but couldn't tie it well no matter what. He frowned. "Sister, can you help me?" I approached him, stood on tiptoe, took that tie and wrapped it around his neck, gently fiddled with the collar of his shirt, pushed the tie down from top to bottom. The whole person got closer and closer to him along with the tie, feeling each other's breaths. I looked into his eyes. He was also looking at me quietly. Somehow my hand touched his abdominal muscles. He approached me. His nose tip almost touched mine. I closed my eyes. The expected kiss didn't fall. "Sister, have you let down your guard against me? Don't test a man's self-control." He lowered his head and said by my ear. I took a step back. He said goodbye to me with a smile and turned to leave. I touched my completely red face and reminded myself to be sober. Twilight's call came just in time. I was trying on the custom-made dress in the bridal shop, but I was always absent-minded thinking about Ryan. "Summer, do you like it?" Twilight carefully held up my skirt by my side. I looked at Twilight. This man was handsome, gentle and gentlemanly, and of noble birth. He was about to become my husband. "Twilight, do you know what love is?" Twilight's movements in his hands stopped. He looked at me in confusion. I shook my head, signaled him not to answer. Suddenly I felt that my question was very stupid. When Twilight's girlfriend came to find me, I was discussing the piano pieces for the engagement ceremony with Ryan. She looked at me aggressively, proudly told me that they had been together for almost a year, and provided evidence that Twilight spent the night at her place last night. That he didn't love me. My calm attitude puzzled her. "It doesn't matter, miss. I don't mind Twilight continuing to have contact with you after marriage, as long as you are willing." She looked at me with eyes like looking at a monster, then left angrily. I saw her unclench his fist. The veins bulged. "So why marry him?" I didn't like his questioning. "I can't love. So it doesn't matter who the person is that walks into marriage with me." He suddenly approached me, gently tidied up my somewhat messy hair, looked at me sincerely with his eyes. "Sister, I can't eat you. Don't be afraid of pain, and give up loving." There was pity in his eyes. His breath was close. I turned my head, and my lips landed on the corner of my mouth. His eyes were full of sorrow. "Sister, I love you. I will never betray you." I looked up at him. My heart ached in waves. Tears couldn't help but overflow from my eyes. I was already imbalanced. My heart was betraying my reason. I took a few steps back and hurriedly fled. When I got home, Ryan's room was lit. But he never came out. On the dining table were the meals he had prepared, a vitamin and a glass of warm water. But tonight I didn't want to touch any food. I put them all away in the kitchen. When I was sleeping drowsily, I suddenly felt the hot breath on the back of my neck. A big hand wrapped around my waist. When I realized there was someone on the bed. At that moment I wanted to scream. But I was so scared that I didn't dare to move at all. I tried to calm my breathing. But I smelled the faint minty fragrance, like the mint hard candy I ate when I was a child. It was Ryan. I was originally a bit angry and turned around. But I saw Ryan sleeping soundly. His eyes were tightly closed. His breathing was shallow. He curled himself up into a ball, but his eyebrows were slightly wrinkled. I remember reading in a book that only people who are extremely insecure will sleep in this baby-like curled-up position. Then I remembered what my father said to me when I asked why he divorced Ryan's mother so quickly. Summer's mother is an emotionals predator. She is good at acting. She just uses one man after another to accumulate wealth. Later, I accidentally learned that Ryan's birth was just an accident. He was a tool used by his mother to blackmail rich men. He was an illegitimate child that his father didn't recognize. I looked at the young man in front of me with heartache. Tears couldn't be stopped and spread. I gently stroked his eyebrows with my fingertips, trying to smooth his melancholy. Because of my wealthy family background, I have never felt a lack. But his closeness made me feel my own incompleteness. Clearly a person who lacks love himself. How can he have such great energy to warm me, comfort me, and resolutely say he loves me? I asked a friend to test the vitamin that Ryan prepared for me every night. Its main effects are to induce sleep and calmness. There are no obvious side effects, but it may cause some fatigue to the taker. This bad guy. I didn't expose him. Instead, every night I pretended to take the vitamin and hide it under my tongue, then spit it out when he wasn't paying attention. I wanted to see what he was really up to. For many nights after that, he would secretly enter my room in the middle of the night, climb onto my bed, hug me, then fall asleep, and leave in the morning. Just the hot breath sprayed on the back of my neck, the broad and warm palm, the inadvertent skin friction all made me unable to ignore. As soon as I thought of the person hugging me was Ryan, my whole body's blood was boiling and my heart was racing. Sometimes, I would secretly look at him. His good-looking eyebrows and eyes were tightly closed. His eyelashes were long and thick. Even when sleeping, his facial features were still so handsome that people were addicted to them. And his pink lips, soft like jelly. I couldn't help but touch them with my hand. He let out a muffled groan, which scared me to quickly withdraw my hand and close my eyes. I was afraid that he would find out that I had already found out. I enjoyed this moment of warmth that night. Tonight I am still waiting for him to think I am asleep and sneak into my room. But tonight he is different from usual. His fingers are cold, gently stroking my face, starting to kiss my neck, even unbuttoning my clothes. The skin that his fingers touched was like lighting up little flames one by one. I couldn't help but quicken my breathing, and even started to tremble slightly. Suddenly, he leaned close to my ear and whispered softly and ambiguously, "Sister, don't pretend anymore. I know you have already found out." I opened my eyes and looked at the young man in front of me, who was smiling a bit slyly. I asked in a hoarse voice, "Summer, are you doing this on purpose?" He didn't say a word, turned around and was about to get out of bed. I pulled his arm and hugged him from behind. "Summer, you don't have to go." I felt his body tense up, heard the disorder of his breathing. I reached out to unbutton his shirt. But when I unbuttoned, and the third one, he stopped me. He turned around, but there was a cloud of mist condensed in his dark eyes. "I want to have sister. But not now." I looked at him in confusion. He turned around and asked me, "Sister, can you choose me?" I didn't answer. I didn't dare to answer. There was bitterness and sadness in his tone. "I don't want this to be just a game with you. I really want to hug you now. But if you don't love me and I enjoy your body, this is filthy. It's a betrayal of my loyalty to you." He turned around. In the depths of his dark eyes, it was like a lake, with undulating waves. I was lost in his affectionate eyes. I wanted to touch his eyes with my hand. But he had already stood up, left my room indifferently. There were some words that I didn't have time to say. I have never regarded this as a game. I think I might love him. The day of the engagement banquet was getting closer and closer. But Ryan was getting more and more silent. Clearly living under the same roof. But he no longer took the initiative to communicate with me. I was a bit sad. I think he was forcing me to choose. At this time, I received a call from my good friend Sharon. Her boyfriend died unexpectedly in a car accident. They were the most loving couple I had ever seen. They met when studying abroad in the UK, and then resolutely accompanied her back to China. At the funeral, I saw sobbing Shani. She held a memorial service as his lover. He was my north. My south. My east and west. My working days. My Sundays. My noon. My midnight. My talk. My song. I thought love would last forever. I was wrong. When she was giving the eulogy, she read W. H. Auden's Funeral Blues. Every word was like a needle piercing into the bottom of my heart. I thought love could last forever. But it can't withstand the arrival of death. If it was Ryan who left. Just the thought of this flashed through my mind and my breathing was almost stagnant. After the funeral ended, I rushed home but couldn't find Ryan. Even his luggage was nowhere to be found. I called him and searched for him frantically. But he was still nowhere to be found. Only then did I realize that he had already become an irreplaceable existence in my life. Tears couldn't stop flowing down. It seemed that I had really lost him. The day after tomorrow is my engagement banquet. I hope he can appear. But Twilight told me that he had resigned. My nose was sour and my vision was blurred again. Summer. What's wrong with you? Twilight asked with concern by my side. I don't want to get engaged anymore. I heard my own voice ring out calmly. Twilight's face was very angry. It's because of Ryan, right? When I heard Ryan's name, I looked up at him in surprise. He came to see me, told me that he loves you, and warned me that if you choose me in the end, he hopes I will be loyal. Tears couldn't be stopped again. In just a few days, it seemed that I had shed all the tears of my life. My father was unexpectedly calm about my calling off the engagement. He also told me, "Do you know why I keep walking into marriage? Because every time I long to meet a partner who can be with me for a lifetime." Summer. Love is a flower growing on the edge of a cliff. Picking it requires courage. At that moment, I missed Ryan crazily. Ryan seemed to suddenly disappear from my life. For 3 months, there was no news of him. I pretended that nothing had happened and continued to live. But every night, I couldn't pretend not to miss that young man crazily. Sister. I seemed to hear his voice calling me. But when I turned around, there was only a bare white wall. I forced a bitter smile. This bad boy made me miss him so much that I had hallucinations. At sunset and dusk, I was wandering aimlessly on the street. But on the display screen of the shopping mall, I saw that familiar face. He was wearing a black formal suit and playing the piano. It was a piece I had never heard before. The melodious and graceful piano sound carried a touch of sadness. At the beginning, there were too many low notes that made me feel a bit depressed. It was like the feeling of the soul being bound. Then, the smooth transition between low and high notes. The piano sound gradually became light and carried hope and longing. It was as if the soul had been released and redeemed. After the piece ended, Ryan was interviewed by the host. "This is a new piece I just composed. I named it. I once thought I would fall into the abyss. But before that, I met my rose and was redeemed. So I want to become the sunlight to water it and prevent it from withering." I looked at Ryan on the screen. This young man had planted a seed in my heart 7 years ago. He patiently watered it with love. Let this seed slowly take root and sprout. Even if the thorns on the branches would prick him, he still tolerated it, allowing the branches and buds to spread. At night, I closed my eyes on the bed and listened over and over again. "Sister," I heard Ryan's voice. "Another hallucination?" Until the young man's hand gently stroked my face. The warm fingertips were wiping away my tears. I slowly opened my eyes. "Why did you come only now?" "I was waiting for you to understand by yourself." "Sister. Now, can you choose me?" I nodded and hugged him tightly, afraid that he would disappear again in the next second. He looked at me gently, with a slight smile on the corner of his mouth. He supported my chin with his hand. He kissed my lips. I felt the wetness beside my neck. It was his tears. Obviously, I was the one who active wrapped around his waist first. But later he took the lead and dominated my breathing. The atmosphere in the room was charming and lingering. "Ryan." I nestled in his arms completely. He kissed my hair tip. His voice was a bit hoarse. What's wrong? I wanted to say 1,000 words. But in the end, I only whispered one sentence in his ear. I love you.